to set up the commission. And I would direct the High Table to folio number 8 of the Secretary General submission, which is a letter dated the 28th of July 2017. I would ask Secretariat to just grab my copy and present to the witness perhaps for a minute or so I can retrieve it back. It's the only copy I have. So Tambedou, so it's clear that from the start, there was indeed no budget in the ministry's vote for the commission.
If you recall my testimony yesterday, I said there was a revised 2017 budget estimate which was approved by the National Assembly, and that was allocated in that budget for the transitional justice process, including the work of the JANNEH Commission, was inadequate, which is why I also had to deploy my own personal efforts to secure funding from donors outside the country. But the letter that you have just shown me indicates that there were monies appropriated to the ministry for the commission, except that it was never enough, as I indicated. So this is very consistent with my testimony yesterday.
So are you saying that there was indeed a vote for the commission under the ministry?
If I recall correctly, yes, there would have been a budget line for either the TJ process in general or the commission specifically. That's my recollection.
So what was, so are you saying that this letter referring to an additional 6 million?
An additional 1 million.
So where did the 6 million emanate from?
I don't understand where.
Perhaps I could ask Secretariat to give you the letter and leave it with you.
I've seen it. I've seen it. I think it refers to 6 million that was already given to the ministry, and this letter is requesting an additional 1 million.
And where was the 6 million provided from?
Where was that provided from?
Yes.
I don't understand that.
Was the 6 million part of the ministry's vote?
It could have been. I don't know. I need to check the budget lines. That's something that I wouldn't know. I wouldn't remember, but it could have been included in the budget, but I suspect it was not. I suspect there was a separate line.
All right, and so this was the inception funding of the commission.
I would assume so, yes.
And were these funds given to the commission, or were they operated for by the Ministry of Justice? on behalf of the commission.
Do you realize that when government, despite the big size of the budget document that the National Assembly approves, I can guarantee you that the government never has the money um, um, in a bank that you would see in these budget estimates. That's why it's called an estimate first, and secondly, government relies on taxes that it collects to pay salaries. This is not like the monies have been allocated already there. They are in a bank account somewhere. So when they say they've appropriated, for example, $100 million is to the Ministry of Justice, don't assume that that $100 million is there in a bank waiting. Nope, it's never there. And so the 6 million that you're talking about is a figure that is there, but it's not really there. And so just so you understand how government allocations work, so with all these figures that you see, they're not really put together in advance. They are disbursed on a rolling basis based on what the government is able to collect.
Yes, however, from the correspondence, at least we know there was a disbursement of 6 million.
Yes, there would have been, absolutely.
Now, how would that disbursement be taken care of? Would it be administered from the commission, or would it be administered from the MOJ?
It wouldn't even be administered from the MOJ. So you see, every time the commission makes a request to the ministry has to make a request to the Accountant General's office, because that is where requests are made for disbursement of funds. And that's why I said it's a complicated process, and you need to understand how government financing works. It's not like the ministry has its own account where it keeps this money. No. The commission makes a request for money to the ministry. The ministry makes that request to the Accountant General, so that the Accountant General, sometimes we make a request for 500,000, they give us 200,000 and say, all right, give us another week, we will give you the balance. That's how it works. So it requires a lot of flexibility and adaptability.
And that's precisely why perhaps the commission should have been set up independently to circumvent that level of bureaucracy. The commission requests from you request from the Accountant General's office. Perhaps CBG might be involved some way, shape, or form. You have 4 entities involved in a request for 10 bottles of water. It becomes...
And that is why I said a lot of sacrifices were made in this process that people don't even know. If you had to buy water, you think we will go through that entire process to buy 5-10 packs of water? No, people dipped into their pockets so that things can move fast. And that was the case with stationaries, highlighters. That's why I said if only people knew the personal sacrifices that were made to get these processes moving. But in any event, council, even assuming that the commission had a standalone budget, it wouldn't mean that the monies would be lodged in an account run by the commission. That's not how government finance works.
Yes, but it would be money available to the commission.
No, that's the thing. The commission would make a request, and in the same way that the Accountant General would disburse part of that request and promise to disburse another part later, they would do the same with the commission. Because the government does not have this money waiting in a bank to be disbursed.
That is understood. However, the estimates, as you rightfully mentioned, are just estimations of what an institution is expected to consume within a calendar year, right?
Yeah.
So with that spirit, if this commission was a standalone entity, the commission would know that we have a 20 million budgetary allocation to us. This is what we're expected to consume. And they would know that they could approach the Accountant General for such and such, and it would come directly to them. So you would circumvent the need for the other two institutions, or perhaps the MOJ?
In theory, yes, but in practice, that would not be the case. But as I said,
Why
this was a because of the way government financing works, Council. I'm trying to explain that. You see, even the commissions that were established by an act of the National Assembly struggled to get their disbursements, even though they had standalone.
I would say this. When it comes to government and finances, even the National Assembly struggles to get its allocation. So let's put that aside.
Okay.
Government, we all know the bottlenecks in receiving funds from the Accountant General and the CBG. However, the point is, and I can tell you this because in this institution, we are a living, breathing example. The institution received its financial autonomy just a few years ago. Prior to that financial autonomy, even though autonomy is prescribed in the Constitution, getting allocations from the Ministry of Finance was like paying an arm and a leg to receive a service. It was slow. There were a lot of procedural steps to follow, and that is precisely why I'm saying that the Commission ought to have been structured in a manner where we could circumvent that bureaucracy. Now, I do commend the persons who dipped into their pockets to serve the Commission for expediency. But this is precisely what the policy should have detailed. The manner in which the operations will be facilitated. Not the operations themselves, but the manner in which the operations will be facilitated should have been prescribed, because the government knows its operandi, knows that it takes such and such a procedure to receive funds. So if it will take 5 days for the Ministry of Justice to receive it, it will probably take 10 days under that current regime, or rather system, or the setup of the Commission, to receive a bottle of water.
Just two quick comments in reaction. First is that, again, I would refer to the duration of the commission, which was a 3-month commission initially. So we have to bear that in mind. That's first. And second, I do not want to go far into this, but maybe you need someone who works in the Accountant General's department to perhaps explain to you how there was an IFMIS system which was applicable to certain entities and not applicable to others. So with a 3-month ad hoc commission, I'm not sure whether they could have had a self-accounting process. I don't know, but that perhaps could be something that you can look into further. But I know that the IFMIS system created certain parameters for certain entities.
I will do you one better. I will turn my head to the right to the Honorable Mbo, who is well acquainted with these systems. And perhaps if the chair could permit, Honorable Mbo could weigh in on this issue, so that we are well guided in our next steps.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, you know, the IFMIS system actually is the central government accounting system that government institutions are supposed to use. But until today, in fact, not all government institutions actually are using it. In fact, the FPAC had to make a resolution which asked Accountant General to ensure all government institutions, including the local councils and government certain projects under various ministries and MDAs, also to be connected to the IFMIS. And in fact, we'll be doing an update on that this afternoon, later in the day. But yet still, the majority are actually right now connected. But yet still, we still have very few that are not particularly connected. So we have few that are still self-accounting, but then there are certain things. Again, if you go back to 2017, you realize that actually the number was bigger than actually now. So as we work together with the Accountant General to ensure that everybody's actually connected to the IFMIS system, we still have gaps under some MDAs where certain projects actually are not actually, even though the projects may span more than 1 year or so, but they're still yet to be connected to the IFMIS system. Even though we've made efforts to ensure that everybody's connected for transparency and accountability, but we still have some gaps. Now, with regards to some of these commissions, you realize that it can be done, but you realize that actually if the commission is created during the financial year, it may be difficult for them because every budget line item actually connected to something. But in the subsequent financial year, that can be done. Not really certain. For example, those that would go like 3 months or 6 months or so, whether the necessity would be there, I do not know. But surely this technology is possible to do. But whether is it really worth the time and energy and the systems that would be needed to do the connections. Again, every connection you have, there are certain requirements you have to have. First, you have the local area network. You also have the point-to-point connection that connects to the Accountant General's office and to their other DR sites and stuff like that. And there are certain requirements you really have to have and train and stuff like that. So I'm not really certain if an institution that will last for only like 3 months or 6 months, whether it's going to worth the cost of doing it. I'm not really too sure. But it's better overall as a government. But if an institution is under a ministry, of course, yes, they can create it under the ministry and have a particular line item. For example, in this particular scenario, you can call it, the JANNEH Commission, and they have a budget line item. And whatever Parliament actually approves for them can be put under budget line item, like we have also with this reparations, etc., etc. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable, for that educative information. I have no idea what IFMIS is about, but I learned of IFMIS because of frustrations that I had at the ministry when dealing with the accounts section. With very helpful accountant, but every time something comes up, he mentions IFMIS, and that's how I retained IFMIS in my head. I have no idea what IFMIS meant, but I knew IFMIS was a problem for me. Yeah.
So in your view, did the dependence on the ministry create delays in the work of the commission?
Yes, to give you a straight answer, but notwithstanding, we try to mitigate those delays by intervening personally at various levels. And I know that lead counsel did so, and I can tell you I did so myself as well in some cases. Yeah.
And it's that level of interaction that, of course, you cannot entirely cut off the commission from the Ministry of Justice, especially, but there's a certain degree of interaction, whether for financial purposes, administrative purposes, and for operational purposes, that should have been frowned upon. And I'll put it to you as a last resort on this issue, that perhaps if the commission were set up to run on their own, I mean, the costing for 3 months, I'm sure, would be an easy endeavor to ascertain. Perhaps they would have worked a bit faster, they would have worked a bit more effective, and it would have been seen to be independent through and through by the public, by the government, and the international world.
But, Council, that was indeed the case. The Commission was seen through and through as independent. I have said to you that when we had outsiders visit this country, I mentioned the Ford Foundation to you, they were so impressed with the structure of the Commission in terms of its independence and detachment from central government, that they thought other countries in the sub-region should emulate this kind of setup. So here we have a third party who has no interest in the functioning of the commission give us their feedback as to the independence of the commission. I am telling you that as Attorney General at the time, I was very satisfied with the functional independence of the commission, and I think you should, again, I'll repeat this, you should ask the secretary who was there, or any of the commissioners, or indeed lead counsel, if ever there was any attempt by certainly the Minister of Justice to interfere with their independence. And I can guarantee that they will tell you no.
It seems I cannot take your guarantee to the bank, because we have had in evidence from the secretary. And to paraphrase, or not to quote him, he was of the opinion that the setup was highly inadequate. It meant that the persons that were meant to be his subordinates were stationed at the Ministry of Justice and were not under his direction or control. He said that it was extremely difficult to receive services, to receive products when the need arrives.
But you see, Counsel, my guarantee is different from your statement now. My guarantee is whether they will tell you that there was any attempt to interfere. Now, that's different from the adequacy of the support that they were getting. But I am sure the Secretary himself will not tell you that I or the Solicitor General or other senior management staff at the ministry ever attempted to even interfere with his work or the work of the commission. And I invite you to extend that inquiry to all other members of the commission and to lead counsel. That's one. Two, as I said, this is government. This is how government operates. There were frustrations, certainly. There were frustrations in my ministry. Why did I just mention IFMIS? So this, unfortunately, this is the reality that we lived in. It's the reality of today's Gambia. Government never has enough, and so ministries struggle to carry out their work. In fact, throughout my period as AG, we have never had full use of our full allocations. They tell you have, for example, 200 million, and by the time you are 150 million, they tell you there is no money for you till the end of the year. So these are frustrations that I can understand. I'm sure the Secretary is right to express those frustrations, but it does not mean there was any attempt to interfere in his operations. And to say that he had no authority over staff who were seconded, well, they were seconded. They were to support him. And if he had no authority over them, he should have brought that to the attention of the ministry, for the ministry to take appropriate action, including replacing those staff who were seconded to the commission. As far as I know, that complaint was never brought to my attention.
But you see, expecting that arrangement to ensue in itself is abnormal, because you want the secretary of an independent commission who should independently administer his commission and answer to only the commissioners, come run to the ministry or the government when there are hiccups. You see, that is the inadequacy in the setup that the committee is concerned about.
But, Counsel, even the commissions that were set up by acts of the National Assembly, which had their own financial autonomy, would run to the ministry when there are hiccups. This is the land ministry. We are there to solve hiccups. So that's not unusual.
Mr. Tambedou, I would insist that that is an unusual arrangement.
But
this is an independent body that should be able to determine its operations, its administration. Now, if you tell me that they can come to the ministry for assistance, yes, but not for the ministry to solve every single problem, from procurement to hiring of staff. Don't you see that that in itself makes the commission dependent on the Ministry of Justice?
I am focusing on the impartiality and the operational independence of the commission, and you seem to be focusing on the administrative support provided to the commission.
I'm focusing on both because I don't believe you can separate the two.
You're calling into question the integrity of the commissioners and lead counsel and the secretary. Did the secretary complain that there was interference in his independence?
Indeed, the secretary's testimony was to that extent. In fact, the chairperson had hinted that there were instances where and we will get to one of those instances. There were instances where it would seem that the government would want to encroach on the commission, and he had to put his foot down and explain to the government that the commission was meant to run independently.
But counsel, I am talking about the MOJ. You're taking me to the government. I am not. The MOJ is not responsible for the actions of the entire government.
Just like I cannot separate the administration from the operation, I cannot separate the MOJ from the government.
No, let's be fair.
That wouldn't be reasonable.
No, but let's be fair. The MOJ cannot be responsible for the actions of the rest of the government. I mean, under what authority? I mean, let's be pragmatic. Let's be realistic. I have been very clear. There is no one in that commission who will sit here and tell you that the MOJ ever attempted to interfere in their work. No one. And so far you haven't. But you have told me instances where other members of the government, I mean, we are not in charge of other members of the government. How can we wouldn't even know that other members of the government are about to do something, let alone to stop or prevent it. So I can only speak to the MOJ, and I think it's only fair if you ask me about the MOJ so that I can respond to you about the MOJ. Council.
Please, could we stand down for 10 minutes and allow members to go to the chambers and come back? We need to bit of the quorum and come back again. Please, just 10 minutes. Huh?
Yes, in fact, Honorable Chair, if I could plead that it be extended to 20 minutes because the business in the chambers also involves the legal team. And just like the Attorney General was very scarcely provided with staff, our legal team is very short. And we do need to provide some assistance to the chambers, but it wouldn't take long, just a matter of 10 minutes. So an additional 10 minutes if you could indulge.
All right, granted, thank you. 20 minutes at least, we should be back. All right, meeting adjourned for now.